Good evening and welcome to Aleena Story Nights. Tonight's episode is a collection of stories about kindness and cruelty to animals. The first story is one of kindness. A man was returning home one night and he found that the police were checking the cars on the way. So instead of letting the police check his car, he fled. Naturally, this made the police very suspicious that he probably has something illegal in the car. They chased after him, and within minutes they had stopped him. They took him out of the car, and when they looked into the car, it was filled with cat food. It was all full of cans of cat food. The police thought, can't be just cat food, there's probably something in the cans. So they opened the cans and again it was cat food. They checked for the car papers, it wasn't there. They arrested the man and took him to the police station. An officer came who was given this case to investigate. So the guy said that he was a very poor man and he had many cats, and he had borrowed this car from a friend of his to bring cat food. And the reason he didn't have the car papers was actually his friend's fault. The friend came later. The friend was called and he bought the car papers so that the police can be sure that the car wasn't stolen. But he had still broken the law, and this man, he was worried that by the time the legal procedures are over, it would be maybe a few days before he could go home. In these days, how would his cat stay without food and water? So he kept pleading with the police officer, I don't mind if you arrest me, but please let me go home and release my cats so that they can at least fend for themselves, because no one will feed them in a closed home. The officer was still suspicious and he thought this guy wants to go home because maybe there is something suspicious, some evidence or something. So the officer went to his house to make sure what was there, and like the guy said, it was full of cats. And he kept pleading one thing, that please let me release them and then you can put me in jail if you want. The important thing is that I don't want my cats to starve to death locked up in a house. And the police officer, after seeing that the man was telling the truth, he became very astonished that though he had arrested this man, he didn't think even once about himself. He just kept going on that his cats shouldn't starve to death. It moved the police officer a lot. Very moved by this man, the police officer said that he would let it pass, seeing that indeed he didn't have anything illegal. Another incident. A man lived with his wife in a villa, and he was also very fond of cats. He had many cats in the garden and in his house. But the problem was, his wife was very uncomfortable with the cats because, well, they were very naughty and they often would ruin the sofas with their nails and break ornaments around the house while playing and running around. So she used to regularly complain to her husband from the cats that it was becoming hard for her to live with them because they were very mischievous. So the man, in a dilemma of what to do about his cats, who he loved a lot, and to be fair to his wife who was complaining from a genuine problem, he decided to rent an apartment. He got an apartment, and then I think you can guess what he did, right? He moved the cats into the apartment? No. He took his wife and he moved into the apartment and left the villa for the cats. I know it's funny. His logic for doing so, he said, they were a childless couple, and he believed that an apartment was enough for the both of them to live comfortably. He said that the cats need fresh air, and for that they need a garden where they can go safely to get their fresh air, where there's no cars that might run them over. As for him and his wife, he said that we are people, we know how to go out wherever we want to go, but animals can't do that. That's why he wanted to keep them comfortably in the villa when they would have a garden around them where they could get fresh air. And his family, a lot of people told him that he was absolutely crazy, but he didn't care. He said that if you could understand how these animals feel, how much character they have, you would understand why I treat them like my children and why I don't see it as a big sacrifice. And so he lived in the apartment very happily, in fact, with his wife, and the cats he kept in the villa with many servants, of course, to take care of them. In a third incident, a woman one day started hearing a cat meowing somewhere, and she lived on the 5th floor, and she thought, on the 5th floor, where would the cat suddenly start meowing? And it was very close. It was as though right outside her bathroom window. She went to the bathroom and she thought, there's probably a cat locked in the apartment below her. So she went there. She tried first the one below her. The owners were not there. They had gone on a vacation. Then she thought, okay, maybe it's the apartment above me, because the cat kept crying non-stop. It was like 3-4 hours. So she tried the next apartment, the one above her, and the owners were there, and they said that they didn't have a cat. Then she thought that it's probably the apartment below me, and they have gone on a vacation and left their cat to starve in their home. She went to the janitor and told him that there's a cat in here that's locked up. The poor thing will die by the time those people return. He said that they didn't have a cat. She said, I can hear it. Come and hear it yourself. There is a cat over there. The janitor came to her bathroom, and indeed they could hear a cat meowing very loudly. So he got the number of the family that lived there, and he called them, and they insisted that there was no way a cat could be in their apartment. They didn't have one, and this was the 4th floor where they were. So where was this cat's voice coming from? So the woman, she kept listening more, and the more she listened, the more it became clear that it was coming from her bathroom wall. Cat in the wall on the 5th floor? She listened, and it became clear that there was a cat in the wall. Behind that wall, there was a cavity for the pipes of the building. And somehow, a cat from the basement had gotten into that cavity and climbed all the way to the 5th floor and gotten stuck over there. She called the janitor and told him that that wall had to be broken immediately. He said, we need permission from the building owner, we can't just break the wall. She said, I'm not going to wait. By the time the permission comes, this animal will suffocate and die inside. She didn't wait. She had no experience with breaking walls. The janitor refused. He said, I'll get into trouble, I can't just break the wall. She said, okay, I'll do it myself. And she went and bought tools and started breaking that wall herself, though she had no experience. And it went outside, and climbed and got into the elevator shaft of the 5th floor. It jumped on the elevator and then down. The vet said it was very lucky to have survived. These are stories of kindness. I've got some sad tales as well. A couple got a turtle. They wanted a turtle as a pet. A few days later, they planned a trip and went off on their trip, leaving this turtle in their home with no one to feed it and take care of it. It was a 3-week trip. During this time, they completely forgot that they had an animal in their home, that they had bought and were responsible for it. 3 weeks later, when they returned, the poor thing had died of hunger and thirst. And then, when they saw it, they remembered that they had bought a pet. In another incident, a woman had gone to the veterinarian, and while at the vet, a man came and she overheard him say to the vet that he had bought a cheetah, but he was frightened of the animal and he wanted to have its teeth and nails removed and its hind legs broken so that he could still have the cheetah to amuse himself and the animal would not be able to harm him. It goes beyond words, cruelty like this, to bring an animal from the wild, to remove its teeth and nails and break its legs to amuse himself. What kind of a heartless person could do something like that? Tonight's episode